Hello, everyone. It's great to be with you today. I'm excited to lead this session and provide you with an overview of choosing the best MBA programs for you. I'm Kelly Wilson, and after 23 years of leading admissions for MBA and MS programs, I joined Accepted as an admissions consultant last fall, and I love that I get to work with candidates who are applying to BSchools. Most recently, I was executive director of master's admissions at Carnegie Mellon University's Tepper School of Business for 10 years. And before that, I was assistant dean at both Georgetown McDonough and then prior to that, University of Pittsburgh's Cat School. During the time I led my admissions team, the team and I reviewed over 38,000 applications across all three schools. And I trust that you will benefit from that experience as I share insights with you today. Many of you joining today are either just getting started on your B-School journey or maybe wondering where to start as you consider all of the options that a business school presents. Not only will you want to consider how each school stacks up against what you're looking for, I'll help you to understand how to determine how you stack up as well. Also, I'm pleased to be able to share information with you about the work we do as admissions consultants that can help you get accepted. Okay, let's dive in and talk about where you should start. A couple of things that you want to think about are what you want and need from your MBA experience. And then also, you'll want to determine how competitive is your profile for the given schools that you're considering. Here are some areas to think about in terms of what you want and need from your MBA experience. I've provided a list here. These are the most obvious maybe, or the most common that we see candidates considering as they think about the things that are most important to them as they think forward about the experience they'd like to have in an MBA program.
Hello, Kelly.
Yes.
Sorry to interject. This
Yes.
is Abhijit. But can you please check if slides are moving, because we see just first slide. Yeah,
yes,
just open slide.
Let me just see what's going on here. I apologize, and I think
yes.
You're ready to go. Okay, great. Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, so let me just back up and talk briefly about where we start. So you're going to determine what you want and need from an MBA program experience, and then determine the competitiveness of your application. In terms of what you want and need, here are some things that you'll want to consider. These are some of the most common things that candidates consider, as they're looking forward to the MBA program. What is it that I want from my experience? One of the most important things I think is, as you begin this process, you need to spend time clarifying your career goals, making sure that the schools on your list work with the companies you're targeting for your desired functional role post-MBA. What are you looking for academically? Perhaps it's important to you to attend a school that's primarily case-based, or you're specifically interested in the experiential learning aspect of a program. Maybe there's a certain area of business that you're interested in as you think about a potential for focus in a concentration or just a deeper dive into the curriculum. If so, include this on the list of things that you want from your experience. You might also consider student clubs. There are a variety of opportunities to focus on career-related clubs or clubs where you can just have a little bit of fun. Organizations are a great way to delve into the MBA experience and take on a leadership role. Remember, the time that you're at an MBA program is practice for developing some of the skills that you'll employ as you're learning through the MBA program and ultimately in your post-MBA job. So think about a student club that you might want to be interested in, or that you might want to participate in, or even lead. Are there other areas of focus, maybe a specific affinity group or a sports-related organization? Add that to your list. University or B-school brands might be an important feature for some. That might be something that for one person is important, for the next person might not be as important. Others may be interested in what the day-to-day experience will be, whether the program is considered small or large. Maybe you're coming to an MBA program with a spouse or partner, maybe bringing some children along with you. You might want to think about what the resources are for them during the time that you're in the MBA program as well. Are you targeting specific geographic locations? Maybe Europe or the US. And if the US, is it East Coast or West Coast? Maybe somewhere in between. Are you looking for a school that's situated in a city or maybe a little bit more suburban or even more of a rural setting? Add that to the list of things that you want and need from an MBA program. Chances are you're already thinking about factors that aren't on this list and you want to add them to it. Of course, you want to make sure that your list reflects what you're looking for. Once you have your list, the next step is to categorize each of the factors. What are your absolute must-haves? Consider these your essentials. Other factors are important, but maybe not necessarily a deal breaker, and those put in the important category. Other items might be nice to have. And then after you've created your list and you've gone through this exercise, you might realize something that you initially thought would be a factor maybe isn't really that important after all, and you can include that as not important. So let's drop all of this information into a spreadsheet. This will be a tool that you can use throughout your process that will help you keep track of all of the information that you're gathering about MBA programs. So your spreadsheet in the beginning will include a column for decision factors. And then the other thing that you'll want to include, of course, is the category. So you've got your wants and needs in one column and how important each of those wants and needs are to you in the other column. And remember, identify any that you have decided that are not really important and go ahead and cross them off your list as I've done here. Keep in mind that these factors are not set in stone. This list will perhaps change over the coming weeks and months. If something in your life changes, then update the decision factors to reflect that. So let's take a look at determining how a given school or how schools stack up against your list of decision factors. Going back to the spreadsheet real quick before we talk about how you'll go about doing this, let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. By sorting the category of how important each of the decision factors is, you've prioritized your list. So you can see in this example, the essential elements are on the top and the nice to have are on the bottom. We've eliminated the not important elements. Then across the top of your spreadsheet, go ahead and list the names of the schools that you're considering. And this will be the place that you come back to as you go through this process to update and refine as you move along. This simply provides some structure as you engage with different B schools to determine how they stack up. You likely have a group of schools that are on your radar based on some preliminary research you've done on the web, conversations you've had with friends and family. Maybe you're targeting a geographic region and that kind of gives you a set of schools, or maybe even, you're focused on the reputation of the school. So you've got a list of sorts. And depending on how many schools you'll want to apply to, you'll want to research 2 to 3 times as many, because literally this process will weed out some of the schools that don't stack up against your wants and needs. The work that's ahead of you is to actively engage with schools on your consideration list. You will spend time with each school virtually, in person, and on campus. What you see here is not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination, but some options to consider and something for us to review while we're together. Especially post-pandemic, schools have a robust set of virtual activities. There are online information sessions, live AMA sessions, as well as student blogs that you can read and content that schools push out to their YouTube channel and other social media as well. At this time of the year especially, many schools are traveling to a city near you. MBA fairs, school-hosted events, or even coffee chats with some admissions team members as they're on the road. If you live near a B school or are planning a trip, consider visiting campus. Sit in on a class or take a campus tour. I should say, and take a campus tour. The firsthand experience really can't be beat. The fall is when many schools host a variety of diversity events. Some are women's visit days, others are veterans events, and even diversity weekend events. You'll have the opportunity to meet with current students, professors, and other members of the community. You'll get a sense of what it's like to engage with and be part of that broader community. Then as you engage with the schools, focus on learning about the things on your list. So going back to the spreadsheet real quick, complete your spreadsheet by indicating whether a given school meets, exceeds, or falls short on what you want and need on each of those decision factors. In this example, you can see where school 3 falls short of one of the essential decision factors, which is a must-have. That school is eliminated from the list moving forward. Now let's talk about determining how you stack up. You need to determine what types and levels of MBA programs you're qualified and competitive for, and are any of them out of reach, reasonably out of reach. So again, you need to consider, are you qualified and are you competitive? And then are any out of reach? To determine if you're qualified, your application would meet the basic standards of a given program. Now, you can be qualified and not be competitive. Being competitive is a bit more nuanced. It includes preferences and characteristics of the program, commonalities or distinctiveness of your background, and sometimes even political or economic trends or events that, let's face it, none of us really has any control over. Once you've determined if you're qualified and competitive, you'll categorize the schools as a reasonable reach. And that means, while acceptance is not likely, with a great application, it's within a reasonable reach. On par means With a great application, you have a solid chance of acceptance. And then safety indicates that you'll likely be admitted if you present your case credibly. There are 3 areas when determining reaches, on par, and safety. And so let's walk through each one of those. The test, the GMAT or GRE, and some schools, there are options available beyond those, but those are the most prolific. The test and the GPA. These are more the quantitative elements and are easier to determine. You're going to compare your scores against the class profile of the most recently admitted or most recently incoming class. And what you'll find on schools' websites is information including the middle 80% range of the incoming class for the test score and the GPA. And you want to take a look at how does your score compare against that middle 80% range. Remembering back to being qualified and competitive, I would offer that if you're in the upper 2/3 of that range, you would fall into the qualified category. Competitive takes a little bit of a I guess, more granular approach. The upper 1/3 of that range aligns you with a competitive applicant. The middle third is somewhat competitive, and then the lower third is a little bit more of someone who's reaching for that particular school. If you're thinking about work and leadership experience, the more competitive the program, the more important it is to have strong work experience with demonstrated impact, advancement, and leadership experience relative to your peers. Many top-tier programs turn down applicants with nearly perfect stats because they are lacking the experience in terms of demonstrated impact at work and leadership. Also, you want to consider diversity. Being an overrepresented or underrepresented industry, demographic, or global region or country will affect your competitiveness. Remember, this isn't an art, or this is an art, not a science. I wish there was, but there's no formula I can give you. And you must remember to consider both the quantitative as well as the qualitative elements of your profile to determine if a school is a reasonable reach, on par, or a safety. So let's take a final look at your spreadsheet. What you see here is that we've completed sections 1, 2, and 3, and we've talked about those. In section 4, how do I stack up? You can see in terms of qualified and competitiveness, this candidate is qualified and somewhat competitive for school 1 and would categorize themselves as a reasonable reach for this school. For the other schools, you can see there are 2 that are on par and 1 that comes up as a safety school. And so, again, there's a lot of subjective information that you'll have to consider here, and it takes time for you to be reflective and to really take a critical look at your experience and what you bring to the table as an applicant. Having stepped through the exercise of choosing the best MBA programs for you and creating a tool to help you along the way, my hope is that you find yourself a little bit more prepared to undertake the journey that's ahead of you. For many candidates, getting some additional support through the process is vital to their success. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the work my colleagues and I do as admissions consultants at Accepted. We know the MBA admissions process from the inside out. Experts having worked in the industry, and we can share our experience with you. We have direct admissions committee experience, and combined, we have 80 years of direct adcom experience. And our approach is based on you. It's not a cookie cutter approach. We get to know you. We get to know your story. We'll want to know your goals, and we'll work with you on the things that that you need the most help with, and that we can really guide you through an exploration, self-reflective journey to putting together your best application. We can work with you comprehensively on the entire application, or you can purchase hourly services to focus on what you need the most help with. And you can use our website as a resource. And in fact, I would encourage you. There's a lot of information there that's available to you at no cost, whether it's advice through the blogs that each of us writes, or guidance through the guides that we publish. You'll find this information on our website and available to you. And then we also offer 30-minute free consultations with members of our team, and you can sign up on our website at your convenience when a time works for you and your schedule. For now, I will leave this information on the screen, providing the info to connect with us. And let me just go ahead and see what questions you all have. Okay, so I see folks from all around the world. This is one of my favorite parts about doing sessions like these. And let me just get to some of the questions. There's someone here who's joining from a car, and I'm glad you're the rider and not the driver. Let's see here. So a couple of the questions that I see here are very specific, and so it's really difficult for me to give you a great deal of specificity. But so some of the questions I may take and make them a little bit more general, just so it can help more people. And frankly, I don't have enough information about you to answer the question specific to you. So one of the questions Suparna is asking is, please recommend certain activities or elements that would help strengthen our profile. One of the things that I think is important that you're able to demonstrate in your application are ways that you have demonstrated impact, not only at work, but outside of work. It doesn't just have to be that you've been promoted to a manager or promoted to, formal leadership position. Perhaps outside of work, you've taken on leadership responsibilities to be able to work on something that you're passionate about. Maybe it's a local organization and you take on a leadership role within that organization. That's something that you can do relatively immediately. Identify an organization, participate, and then be able to demonstrate over the coming months how you have worked with that organization to make an impact. That's certainly one of the things that would help strengthen your profile. I think another thing that will help you, as I outline the different activities that you could take advantage of, when you have your list of schools, your broader list of schools, your consideration set, and you're looking for ways to engage with the community, make sure that you're understanding how you can make a difference by becoming a member of that community. Schools are interested not only in what you're looking for from the organization, how you see that you align and you see the school aligns with your aspirations academically and from a career standpoint. But something that will help strengthen your profile is to be able to talk about what you'll contribute as a community member. And so maybe let's imagine you connect with a group of students on an Ask Me Anything session, and you find someone who is participating with an organization or who is doing something outside of the classroom that really kind of piques your curiosity, and you say, yes, that's something that makes sense to me, and I could see how the things that I have done could add value there. I think there are opportunities through the admissions process, whether you're writing your essays or during the interview, for you to strengthen your profile, if you will, on the in that respect. And so I hope that gives you, Suparna, a little bit of information. Let's see. At this point, so someone's asking for a profile on individual BSchools. I understand the interest in some specific schools, and I think that's really what that first exercise, the initial exercise about trying to determine what schools you're interested in and what they're looking for. One of the resources that I'll give you is, or make sure that you caught on one of the slides, is on our website. There's a selectivity index, and that will give you a really good sense of how many applications a school gets, the number of admits, and the people who or the size of the class that attends. That will give you some of that information as a starting point. I would encourage you to sign up for a consultation with one of our team members to really get into some specific information about your profile and where you stand relative to a given school. And certainly, as we think about our process working with candidates, that's one of the first things that we do once you purchase services. If you purchase a comprehensive package, that brainstorming session is one of the things that you'll do right off the bat. So Suparna is following up on a question about working on new activities. So if you start working now, if you're applying to business school in round one, I do understand that might not give you a lot of time to really be able to demonstrate impact. If you're applying for round two, then you have a number of 6 months to really get into, maybe even 7-8 months to get into some of the activities. I think certainly you don't want to come off as doing the activities just for the sake of your application. So I think that this really has to be something that you're passionate about. Just doing it so that you can put a bullet on your resume is not something that I would advise. Rather, if you have a passion about something, it's a way that you can get involved with something, take on a leadership role, and demonstrate some impact. Okay, let me just see here. Payal, I'm going to take a look at, I'm a creative director at a leading media company with 7+ years of total work, and I want to move to a brand strategy role. Which college in Europe can help me with it? So I'm not in a position today where I can answer that question, but what I would encourage you to do is to set up a meeting with one of our consultants. Jamie Wright has worked for London Business School. She would be a great person to connect with and start a conversation with. And so I would encourage you to reach out through our website and sign up for a free consultation with her. Yeah, so Brendan is asking, any advice on figuring out fit or culture of a school? and Brendan, you're so right. Every school claims the same buzzwords, right? It's a close community. It's a tight-knit community. I do think that until you've engaged with current students, whether in person or in an Ask Me Anything or one-on-one, I don't think you really know that, because schools all do claim the buzzwords. I'll tell you something. At one of the schools that I worked at, I had connected a current student with a candidate who was applying to the program. And the candidate really wanted to get a deep dive into what the school was like. And I would always say, if there's any information that could be helpful for me to know, please feel free to share it back. At that point, what I found really interesting was the students at the school were super eager to make sure that they were conveying the realities of the program. And we would always tell them, you can convey the information about the program, and be honest about it without really, without being disparaging in any way. Like, no program is going to be 100% to every person. And so the idea is, if you can connect with someone either through one of the virtual events, or you'll see student ambassadors on websites, connect with a student ambassador and ask them questions. And I think asking the same questions of multiple people will give you a sense of is this an environment I could find myself thriving in? That's always what I would tell people was important, is you want to make sure, not just, I think it seems okay. You want to know that you're going to thrive there. There is nothing better than a live event. And in the fall, again, there are a lot of campus visits, and major events are diversity weekends. If you can attend one of those, that would be a really great way to get firsthand experience of in terms of fit, in terms of culture. Okay, let's see. Here's a question from Victoria about GMAT versus GRE. And this is a question that, I would answer as, on the school side as well. Schools really have become, for the most part, test agnostic. If there's a preference, the school will tell you, but I would tell you 9.9 chances out of 10, you're going to learn that there isn't necessarily a preference. Rather, the schools are looking for demonstrated skill of being able to handle the coursework. There are some programs that waive the test score altogether. And so you want to just make sure that you're understanding what the requirements are for each program, and take the test if it's required. Take the test that you think you're going to do the best on. I would say that would be my biggest recommendation in terms of being competitive. You want to make sure that you can get the best score possible. So Karen is asking, what are safe but still top schools in your opinion? Here's the thing, like, that it's such a personal question, because for me to answer that, I would need to know your profile. Certainly, the MBA industry has changed over the years, and schools both inside and outside the U.S. are very good schools, and I think that is a question that would be best served speaking with someone who knows a little bit about your background. Rahul, you're asking me for a question, or asking me for an opinion that is really hard, again, for me to answer. And I'm not trying to skirt the question, but let me tell you why I can't tell you whether Duke versus Cornell with similar money. It depends on what you want out of the experience. It depends on what your what your goals are and where you think you can land working with the career office of that school. Here's the things that I would ask you to think about. If you feel like both serve you well in those aspects, what are you thinking about fit? Like, what are you thinking about this current students that you've talked to? Do you feel like this is an environment, whichever one you're thinking of, this is an environment where you can really see yourself achieving what you want to achieve at a level of excellence? And I think that's the kind of, if you're really torn, I think it comes down to just like which one feels like it's the best place for you. I suspect if you go back through kind of even though you may not have gone through an exact process like I mentioned, but if you go back through the factors you have used to get to this point, you may identify something that would be maybe a little telling if you look at those two schools side by side. And now I see your next comment is related to entrepreneurship long term. Here's what I would advise you. Reach out to the schools and ask them to connect with their entrepreneurship centers or their faculty that teach entrepreneurship, and really try to dig into what folks interested in being an entrepreneur are doing, and what in terms of the ecosystem in the community, what does that look like for you? Okay, let's see. Garrick is asking, is it worth writing achievements in personal life in a difficult situation in an essay? Is that okay and will be any help? So I'm going to interpret this question, and I hope that I get it, that I'm understanding it correctly. So what I'm reading here is that you've had some personal circumstances that have been difficult and challenging, and you've overcome them. I would say so first of all, you want to make sure you're answering the question that's posed. If the question allows you to talk about this situation, I think you absolutely can. If there is not an essay question that allows you to talk about this, but you think there is some critical information that you want to convey, you can use the optional essay to talk about a difficult situation that you've overcome if you want to demonstrate particular characteristics about yourself. I think the balance you need to take is sharing enough information so that there's an understanding about the situation, but not oversharing. And being clear on what it is you're trying to convey. So I think it can be worth writing achievements, writing about an achievement you've made, despite the circumstances. Just make sure that, one, you're answering the question that's posed, and two, if there's an optional essay, that's a way to go about it. Okay, let's see. Dorel is asking, can a recent graduate apply for an MBA with less than 2 years of work experience? There are schools that require work experience and schools that don't require work experience. You can find a school that will, if that's one of your decision factors, and that's going to be one of the must-haves, then you'll need to do some research to find schools that have some flexibility with that, and they're out there for sure. The other thing I just would mention, as a recent graduate, there are also schools that have deferred admissions, and what that means is that you can apply as a student for a deferred admission program. For the most part, you apply and are admitted but you don't attend for a few years down the road. So instead, what you do is you'll work for a couple of years after undergrad, and the school will lay out what the requirements are. And then you have admission for that X number of years later. I do know that Yale has an opportunity for admission into their program, and it works a little bit different than that. You would start now, and the process is a little bit different. So that might be one you want to look into as you're thinking through this. But certainly there are others, both that will have kind of the deferred admission opportunity, as well as schools that don't necessarily require work experience. Amy, this was a great question. Do you have any advice for those of us who got impacted by layoffs earlier this year? Should we still apply this year, or should we wait until we find a job and apply next year? If you are in a position where you want to go to B school, I would encourage you to apply. I think what you'll need to do is you'll need to make sure that you've got a clear idea of what you want to accomplish, because you'll need to talk about that in your application. Not that it can't change once you're in school, but you need to kind of lay out the plan, if you will. Schools understand that layoffs have happened. And so the idea of you're not having, if you got let's say you got laid off in March and you apply for January for round 2, I think what you want to be able to demonstrate is, what have you been doing between March and January? And potentially you could be doing some consulting work on your own, or you could be doing some work to help prepare you for that next step. Maybe you're looking to shift careers, and maybe the time between now and when you apply, you can be upskilling. And so think about it in terms of what you might be doing and how you'll convey that information in your application when you do apply. In this type of situation, there is, the schools are going to understand that this has happened to a lot of people. And so I don't think you have to get a job and wait for next year. I think you can go through the process, talk with schools if you have concerns. They will, I'm sure, if you attended information sessions during the Spotlight series, that probably is a question that will come up. And I would be shocked if the answer is different than what I'm sharing with you. So the question is, do applying for different intake rounds affect your probability of getting selected? So here's how I have always answered that question. And my answer is, apply as early as you can, as long as you're putting together the best application that you can. And so, applying in round 1, there are, no one's been admitted yet. So, that might be something that you think about. But if you're rushing to get your application in for a given round, and you would be submitting a stronger application if you took some additional time, then I'm not sure applying earlier is better. And so focus on the work that you need to do to get your application to the optimum. I hope that helps. All right, let's see if there are any other questions. I don't see any other questions, but I'll keep an eye just as I'm talking here to see if one more pops in. Again, I have enjoyed working with candidates like yourselves, and if there's something that the accepted team can help you with, please do reach out to register with us for a free consultation. Use the resources on our website and let us know how we can help you as you navigate this process. It can be an intimidating process, but we're here to help. So let us know how we can do it. I wish you all the best and best of luck as you're going through this process. Gustavo came in with a question here, so let me go ahead and reply, read through it. So Gustavo, with 12 years of full-time experience, looking for improvements, leadership skills, and in decision making, should I look for an MBA program? Do we have good 1-year full-time options? So I would, with 12 years of experience, certainly at the schools where I've worked, we have had candidates successfully be admitted and navigate the hiring process and land in great roles. I think you're at a point where you lean a little more toward an MBA program or a 1-year program, but I don't think it's necessarily the only option that you have. If you're, if you want a 2-year MBA program, if you want that 2 years so that you can focus more time on developing the skills that you're talking about, it's a possibility. And so there's no real clear-cut answer because I have seen many students like yourself in a 2-year program. There are good 1-year program options available. Many of the European programs, and there are a number of programs in the U.S. And I think if you do a bit of research, there's information on our website as well as just Google, different program aspects, and you'll be able to come up with some quick lists, I think, initially. You can also sign up for a free consultation, and we'll be happy to help you navigate that as well. So the idea of, Saparna is asking a question about which B schools require IELTS and TOEFLs. And do any of the M7 schools ask for it? Should you focus on high scores for that too? So here's what I'll say about IELTS and TOEFL. So there's a little bit of difference in my experience from one school to the next in terms of what's required. Some schools will give you a score that you must attain. Other schools don't necessarily give that. It really is a case by case in terms of what the schools require. And so I think the rule of thumb that you might think about is, was the medium of instruction instruction English in the institution where you attended? If you're not a U.S., obviously, if you're applying from outside the U.S., that may vary just a tiny bit. There are a couple of programs that I know of just off the top of my head who may position it more as the language, the official language of your country. So check the schools and just take a look at what the requirements are for IELTS or TOEFL. And then also remember, many schools have also adopted Duolingo. So that might be another option for you as well. All right, my friends, it has been wonderful being able to talk with you this afternoon or this evening or this morning, depending on where you are. I recognize that we're joining in from all over the world. Please let me know if there's any way that, or let the accepted team know if there's any way that we can help you. I wish you all the best. This is a wonderful time as you're thinking about completing an MBA program or applying to an MBA program. It truly is life-changing, and I wish you the very best. I will answer one more question here, Garrick. Do I have to finalize my MBA specialization before admission? Or do I have, yeah, this is a great question. So the question is about like, do I have to know what I want to concentrate in as I'm applying to MBA programs? The answer is no. I think what you need to have clarity on is what is a plausible, a realistic career goal, so that you can outline the skills and knowledge you need to, you may need to fill the gap of between what your skills are now and where you need to be to achieve that particular type of role. But I think that's as far as it goes in terms of needing to, talk about what you're interested in terms of concentrations or specializations. That all happens as you're onboarding and starting the first semester in most cases. So I think you'll be all set there. If there are no other questions, I want to thank you again for joining me, and I wish you all the best, and I hope that our paths cross at some time in the future. Thank you very much, everyone.